Bear down, fam. Travis KELCE, 3 rings. Just got humbled in ESPN's 2026 tight end rankings, and the guy who knocked him out of the top 5 is a Bear, Colston Loveland. In a minute, I'll tell you why this isn't just a Twitter stat. It's proof of the exact plan Ryan Poles built for Caleb Williams, and why spending a pick on a 3rd tight end nobody asked for actually makes way more sense than you think. Meanwhile, back at Hallis Hall, 150 targets are just sitting there up for grabs, left behind by DJ Moore and Olamide Zacchaeus. Luther Burden III is one step from becoming Chicago's #1 receiver, but he's also one step from exposing a real problem if he can't carry that load. I'll tell you which one it's going to be, and we're closing with the bomb nobody in the Windy City saw coming. A rival coach, anonymously, just put a real question mark on Darnell Wright's motor, right when the Bears already got 3 names circled for a surprise camp cut. All of that right now. Bear down, fam. All right, fam, let's talk about this the way it deserves, because what came out Friday from Jeremy Fowler at ESPN is not a scroll past kind of data point. To me, this is one of the biggest validations this front office has received in the last 2 years, and I want to break it down piece by piece. Let's start with the real context, because you need to understand where KELCE is coming from to understand where Loveland is going. Travis KELCE entered ESPN's 2026 ranking, which is built by surveying executives, scouts, and coaches across the league at number 10. Last year, heading into the 2025 season, KELCE was 5th. That's a 5-spot drop in 1 year for a player who, for over a decade, was automatically a top 3 name anytime somebody built a list like this. Fowler was direct about it. He said KELCE is far from a burner at age 36, but it's hard to argue with his production. His 429 yards after the catch ranked 3rd among this year's candidate pool, and he was in better shape than the year before. But he also noted 9 drops were not ideal. 9. For a tight end at that level, with that experience, 9 dropped passes is a decline signal that not even the best PR machine in football can fully cover up. And look, this isn't me trying to bury KELCE for fun. The guy is coming back for what's expected to be his final season after turning down retirement for a 2nd straight offseason. He's got 3 rings, he's one of the best tight ends in history, and he's earned the respect that comes with that. But the ranking is the ranking, and 11 Pro Bowls or not, on paper for 2026, Colston Loveland is already above him. Now let's talk about Loveland, because here's what genuinely excites me. This kid wasn't even ranked last year. 0 mentions. And this year he walked straight into the number 7 spot, passing a living legend of the position. Fowler wrote something that sums up exactly why. He said Loveland's production over the final 4 games of last season, including the playoffs, showed exactly where his career is headed upward. 378 yards on 28 receptions, 2 touchdowns, with a 29% target share over that stretch. A 29% target share for a 2nd-year tight end is a number you normally see from a team's #1 receiver, not from the position Loveland formally occupies on the offensive depth chart. And here's what I want you to really understand, because this is not a coincidence. Loveland was picked number 10 in the 2025 draft, a high first-round tight end, selected specifically to be the kind of weapon Ben Johnson needed in his multiple personnel group scheme. When multiple teams tried to trade up for that pick 10, it was already known this kid was coming with a different ceiling than your average tight end, and his 2025 trajectory confirmed exactly that. The further the season went, the bigger his role in the offense got. To me, that's the best possible sign of a player understanding the system in real time and growing inside of it, not a guy who got lucky on a couple of big plays. Okay, bro, but here's where this connects to something bigger, because Loveland is not alone in that tight end room, and that takes us straight to Sam Roush. On July 10th, Sam Roush, the Stanford tight end Chicago selected with pick 69, signed his rookie deal, 4 years, $7.35 million. He was the last player from the Bears 2026 class to sign. And here I have to flag something I caught while going through the source, because this is exactly the kind of thing this channel doesn't let slide. Adam Schefter, in his original tweet, literally wrote that Roush was the Bears' 2nd-round pick. 2nd round. But the article's own text and the reality of the draft say Roush was a 3rd-round pick, number 69 overall. That kind of mistake, coming from Schefter, who is basically the most trusted name in the business, genuinely surprises me, and I'm flagging it here so you're not confused if you see that tweet floating around. The truth is, 3rd round. Now, the Roush pick drew plenty of criticism when it happened, and I get it. Chicago had already used pick 25 on safety Dylan Thieneman and pick 57 on center Logan Jones. With the offensive line still in partial rebuild mode, with Ozzie Trapello recovering from a serious knee injury, a lot of fans expected the Bears to use that pick 69 on a tackle or a pass rusher, not a 3rd tight end. And the criticism in the comments under Schefter's tweet was direct, people asking whether the front office has doubts about Loveland, or why spend that much on a tight end whose main job might be blocking, given Loveland and Cole Kmet are already on the roster. Look, I'll be honest with you. I understand the frustration, but I think people are reading this wrong. Under Ben Johnson, according to an analysis from Jacob Infante of Pro Football Network, the Bears' use of 12 personnel jumped from 19th in the league all the way to 6th in a single season. That's not a small detail. That's an offense deliberately built around having multiple tight ends on the field at once to create run-pass tension and disguise the attack. On top of that, the Bears also used a good amount of 13 personnel last year, 3 tight ends at once. In that context, a T3 who can block in line and also catch the ball, which is exactly what he did at Stanford, where that same analysis ranked him 5th in the entire FBS in receptions, receiving yards, and PFN's college TE impact scoring, is not a wasted pick. It's a piece that fits exactly the philosophy Johnson is already running. And here's the part I want to be clear on, because it directly connects to the first half of this story. Heavy Sports speculates, and I want to stress that this is that outlet's speculation, not confirmation from the Bears, that Rouge could eventually replace Komet as the team's TE2 on a much cheaper contract. I honestly don't know if that happens in 1 year or 2. I could be wrong about the timing. But the financial logic behind that idea is undeniable. Komet has no guaranteed money left on his deal, and his cap hit is set to top $15 million in 2027. If Roush shows in year 2 or 3 that he can perform at a similar level for a fraction of the cost, Ryan Poles is going to have a very easy business decision to make. And we all know Poles is not a sentimental general manager. So if you're asking me how all this connects, Loveland passing KELCE in the ranking is not a cute, isolated data point. It's proof that the tight end project Poles and Johnson built, with Loveland as the star, Komet as the transitional veteran, and Roush as the next cheap piece, is working exactly as designed. And that, to me, says more about this front office than any single ranking could say on its own. Okay, bro, we just talked about tight ends, but that same idea, who fills the gap a veteran leaves behind, is exactly the thread that carries us into the second story of the day. And this one hits even closer to home because we're talking receivers. DJ Moore is no longer a Bear. He's in Buffalo. Olamide Zacchaeus isn't on the roster either. Between the two of them, they leave 150 targets up for grabs this season, 150. That number is massive for any NFL offense, and on a team that already has Romo Dunze and Colston Loveland as safe bets to take a big slice of that pie, the question left hanging in the air is about Luther Burden III. Let's go to the actual production first, because the numbers don't lie here. Over his final 8 games of the 2025 regular season, Burden had 34 catches for 482 yards. Extrapolate that pace over a full 17-game season, and you're looking at 72 catches for 1,024 yards. That's not a hype projection I'm making up. That's straight math off his actual production in the back half of the season, once he wasn't a rookie learning the system anymore, but a player who was starting to understand it. Bucky Brooks, an analyst at NFL.com, put him on his all-breakout team for the 2026 season, and wrote something I think is key. He said that as the Bears keep expanding the playbook to exploit the individual and collective talents of their perimeter weapons, Burden's numbers could explode as the new number 1 playmaker in the Windy City. Notice he didn't say another option. He said number 1. And this is where the advanced metrics come in, which to me is the most convincing part of the whole argument. According to Next Gen Stats, Burden led the entire league in separation at 4.6 yards. Led the whole league, not just rookies. After the catch, he posted the 3rd best yards after catch average at 7.4. And his 2.71 yards per route run put him in elite company, 3rd in the entire league, behind only Puka Naswa and Jackson Smith and Jigba, 2 of the best young receivers in football right now. And that same number was the highest among all rookie receivers since 2015. Since 2015, fam, 10 years. Now, I'll put my genuine doubt on the table, because this channel's whole identity is not blind hype. The real question isn't whether Burden has the talent. He already proved that. The question is whether he can sustain that level as the primary receiver, week after week, once opposing defenses start building game plans specifically to shut him down, instead of treating him like the 3rd or 4th option he was last year. There's a huge difference between producing when the defense is looking at Moore and Odunze first, and producing when you are the primary target of the coverage. We don't know that yet. And backup quarterback Case Keenum has already gone on record saying Burden can be special, which gives me confidence, but a teammate's confidence isn't the same as a full season of evidence carrying that weight. Look, if you ask me for an honest prediction, I think Burden finishes the season over 1,000 yards, and I think he becomes Caleb Williams' favorite option on 3rd and long, because his separation ability and his after-the-catch explosion are exactly what a quarterback needs when the play clock is running out. But I'll also tell you honestly, if Burden stalls in the opening weeks while defenses adjust their coverage toward him, this offense has a real problem because there's no backup DJ Moore waiting on the bench. It's Burden, or it's 150 wasted targets. And to close it out, fam, I've got two things that go hand in hand, because both of them speak to the same tension: who earns their spot on this roster and who still has something to prove. Let's start with Darnell Wright. The right tackle is coming off a season where he finally got the recognition a lot of us had been asking for. He made his first Pro Bowl playing through a shoulder injury on top of it, and Pro Football Focus graded him as the number 14 tackle in the entire league. In Jeremy Fowler's annual survey of NFL executives, coaches, and scouts, Wright landed as the number 6 tackle in football with a 95.2% pass block win rate. Those are elite numbers at his position, no question. But here's the but, and I think it's fair you hear it exactly how it came out. An anonymous defensive coach told Fowler directly that he doesn't see a consistently high motor from Wright. He said, word for word, that's the next step for him, getting that up. Listen closely, this is not a small insult coming from someone who faces him professionally on the field. A defensive coach building game plans against Wright week after week is seeing something specific, probably stretches where Wright plays with less urgency on plays that aren't clearly decisive. And yet, on the other side, a personnel director was far more generous, describing Wright's best ability as pure power and brute strength, saying he can do whatever he wants on a football field when he's locked in. That's the real contradiction I want you to see. It's not that Wright is bad, it's that there's a legitimate debate happening in league hallways about consistency versus physical ceiling. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me. The Bears already picked up his 5th-year option, so he's locked in through 2027, and I think he's walking into this season with something to prove because he's negotiating his next big contract next offseason, and that kind of financial motivation tends to light up motors that were running cold. Now let's talk about the cuts, because this connects directly to the idea that nobody on this roster has their spot fully guaranteed. We're a little over 2 weeks from training camp opening, with mandatory report on July 28th, and final cuts land on August 30th. And there are 3 names that, according to Mike Moritas' prediction on Bears on SI, could be negative surprises. First is Ruben Hippolyte, a 4th-round linebacker from the 2025 draft. He played just 7 games with 1 start, and even missed minicamp with an undisclosed injury. With Devin Bush, TJ Edwards, DeMarco Jackson, and 5th-round rookie Keyshawn Elliott basically locked in, Hippolyte has, at best, 1 roster spot to fight for, and he's got real competition from more experienced veterans. Losing a 4th-round pick after a single season would be a strong signal the front office didn't see what it hoped to see. Second is Jedrick Wills, the former 1st-round left tackle out of Cleveland, Chicago, signed in free agency to add competition while Ozzie Trapilo recovers. The problem for Wills is that Braxton Jones is already the clear favorite to win that job, leaving Wills fighting for a backup role with no guarantees. A player who arrived as a potential starter ending up unemployed would, without a doubt, be one of the more surprising turns of this offseason. And third is Jordan Vandenberg, the 6th-round defensive lineman out of Georgia Tech who arrived with a ton of hype for his athleticism. The problem is, he showed specific struggles with his get-off during minicamp, and on a team in win-now mode, not long-term development mode, that could cost him a roster spot against a veteran with more immediate certainty. And there you have it, fam. Notice how everything we talked about today connects, because it's not a coincidence. Across all 3 stories, the underlying question is the same. Who earns their spot when the big name isn't guaranteed anymore? Loveland earned his above a legend like KELCE. Burden has to earn his by filling the gap Moore left behind. And in the trenches, even a Pro Bowler like Wright has to prove more, while several roster names are literally fighting to keep their locker at Halas Hall. This franchise in 2026 isn't being built through blockbuster trades. It's being built job by job, competition by competition, with Ryan Poles betting hard that internal development beats buying solutions from outside. And honestly, looking at these numbers, looking at this ranking, looking at this tight end room, it's hard for me to argue with that bet. Bear down, always. If this video gave you something, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me down in the comments, who do you have more faith in to break out this season, Loveland or Burden? And of the 3 names I gave you for the surprise cut, which one do you think actually sticks around? I want to read every single answer. See you in the next one.